Let's start with Chicago. Lori Lightfoot. Lori Lightfoot denies making obscene derogatory remark about Italian Americans. This is Chicago
Lori,
Sun-Times.
what are you doing? Just double down.
Mary Lori Lightfoot on Friday branded as deeply offensive, ridiculous, and wholly lacking in merit the claim that she made an obscene and derogatory remark against Italian Americans during a call to discuss the statue of Christopher Columbus removed from Arrigo Park. One day after refusing to comment on the allegation contained in a lawsuit filed by the Chicago Park District's former Deputy General Counsel, Lightfoot, she felt compelled to break with her longstanding practice of not commenting on pending litigation. All right, here's the money graph here. The deal was described in a lawsuit filed Wednesday by one of the Park District officials on a video call. Former Deputy General Counsel George Smirnoidis, who alleged he was given 10 minutes of notice of the call with the mayor, which occurred the night after the parade. On a call, according to the lawsuit, Lightfoot berated Smirnoidis and Park District General Counsel Timothy Kang. Quote from Lightfoot, "You dicks, what the fuck were you thinking?" Lightfoot is quoted as saying. According to the lawsuit, Lightfoot went on to accuse King and Smirnoidis of making some kind of secret agreement with Italians. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're out there measuring your dicks with Italians and seeing who's got the biggest dick. I'm trying to keep Chicago police officers from being shot, and you're trying to get them shot. My dick is bigger than yours and the Italians. I have the biggest dick in Chicago.
King Kong ain't got shit on me.
Okay, so was she like pro the statue or no? I'm gonna be honest. I've not been following this. Was she like we gotta get the statue out of there because it's getting cop shot, or is she saying like you're worrying about this stupid fucking statue and I'm worrying about keeping the boys safe?
I mean, I don't know. All I do know is that she's got the biggest dick in Chicago.
Yeah.
It says here the Columbus statue was taken away on Lightfoot's orders in 2020 after it became the target of protests and vandalism. So they're making secret deals with Italians and their big dicks, but they're not swinging pipe like Lori is. Little known fact, they kept records on every American mayor's dick size in Tower 7. And gotta say, just cui bono, who benefits?
Well, so like if the two towers, that's Rudy Giuliani and like a team of contractors that brought it down and like killed 3,000 people just so he could get back up there, and it succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. But Jews actually did do Building 7.
Yeah.
It was just a totally separate incident.
Yeah, it was all Larry Silverstein. It was just a bust out like Goodfellas.
Yeah, and we're like, well, I mean, we did another thing, but like we didn't do that one.
Yeah.
So I still think you guys kind of owe us an apology.
Yeah, like there wasn't really anybody in there. I think like this is unfair to lump us in with 9/11 just because it happened on the same day and right next to it.
All right, so Lori Lightfoot, Chicago. I had to check right now, and we got to check in on our friend John Kass and what he has to say about Lori Lightfoot's big dick. So,
hell yes!
All right.
Here is Chicago legend John Kass, writing at johnkassnews.com. Chicago, behold Mayor Phallus Maximus.
All right.
John Kass writes, with the Chicago mayoral election just a year away, as the city reels from one crisis to the next, foul-mouthed Lori Lightfoot has transformed herself into something astonishing. Behold, Mayor Phallus Maximus.
He's really proud of that one.
In the most vulgar terms, according to a lawsuit filed the other day, she reportedly boasted about the size of her manhood while insulting Chicago Italian-American community on the size of their manhood.
As we've discussed, not the case.
It's not the case.
Basic reading comprehension, John. Is it too much to ask?
Yeah, like you are a writer, John.
Yeah.
Bravo, Mayor Phallus Maximus. Bravo, Mayor Phallus Maximus. But the Italians really don't. But the Italians really don't really. God damn it! But the Italians really don't really want to take out the ruler. All they want is the release of Christopher Columbus from her wacky ideological prison for statuary. Yes, there is other important news in the world. The people of Ukraine suffer from Russian military attacks. American gas prices at the pump hit historic highs. Inflation eats our savings. Violent crime escalates in cities across the country, including Chicago, amid growing calls for the resignation of the mayor's endorsed Cook County State's Attorney, Kim Foxx. So the mayor's priapic boast about the size of her manhood is rather pathetic, as if she's some boorish tugboat Annie ranting alone in the tugboat gallery while watching. Tugboat Annie ranting alone in the
Tugboat Annie was the Tom of Finland for lesbians. She's a character more appropriate for the lesbian lifestyle of you go on one date and then you marry a woman for 17 years and then you get divorced and then you spend every other Thanksgiving together after that. That's what Tugboat Annie did in the cartoon.
Boorish Tugboat Annie ranting alone in the tugboat gallery while watching TV.
Gallery.
I don't understand
What does that mean?
The tugboat galley. Sorry,
he might be thinking, or like is he imagining?
Galley.
Or he imagines that she's like at a art gallery filled with tugboats.
Ranting alone in the tugboat galley while watching TV, shouting about a teeny cocktail weenie on a tiny toothpick in one of those cringeworthy male enhancement commercials. But she's not a cartoon. She's the mayor of Chicago.
It's interesting because she looks like she drank the juice from Roger Rabbit at all times.
The dip?
Yeah.
Yeah. She it does. I do have a suspicion that she like is shrinking in real time. Like I feel like if you were to measure her day to day over the past, certainly since she became mayor, that there's like an appreciable reduction in her height.
Yeah, she looks like she sleeps in an MRI. Like, I don't know. I know like people age and shit, but what the fuck?
It's unnerving.
Yeah.
I mean, I think John Kass already is proving why he is a Chapo all-star because unlike most opinion columnists, he really lets you in.
Yeah.
He lets you in. He opens up parts of himself that otherwise, other not as good columnists would keep hidden. And for John Kass just here, he's talking about a very specific male enhancement commercial that features a tiny cocktail weenie on a tiny toothpick. And he's just like, I can't, don't show me this. Stop showing me these cocktail weenies. I don't need male enhancement. Stop the tugboat, Annie. Take it back to the tugboat galley.
The only male enhancement commercial I really remember is Bob from Ed Stens. Anybody remember?
Oh,
that
yeah.
I don't remember any cocktail weenies. I think this is all in his mindscape.
So he goes here. There are kids getting shot in the streets of Chicago and families here with people in Ukraine. There is so much going on, and I'm almost embarrassed to be discussing statues right now, said Ron Onesti, president of the Joint Civic Committee of Italian Americans, on the current edition of the Chicago Way podcast. The Chicago Way podcast is a podcast specifically
the Chicago Way.
It's sort of like Hot Ones, but the host and the guests just measure their dicks back and forth and then lick increasingly hot sauce off each other.
Oh, baby.
He goes, I was on the Chicago Way podcast that I co-host with WGN's Radio's Jeff Carlin that the honorific of Mayor Phallus Maximus was first bestowed. And she deserves it with that potty mouth of hers, allegedly according to... I mean, like, it's just John Kass, like, why the fuck... It's the mayor of Chicago. You host a podcast called The Chicago Way, and you're being like, no potty mouth. Wash your mouth out with soap. Like
what was it that Mayor Daley said to Abe Ribicoff at the '68 convention? Something about how he's go Jew go, something like that.
Well, I like this is again a thing you don't really see anymore after Trump. But like, it is funny when someone who is like virulently racist hates cussing.
Yeah,
most of those guys have died off, and it's like again, like after Trump, that's just not a thing. But it is like a fun relic. Yes. Like a guy who will, anytime that police shoot a 15-year-old to death, will defend it, but is just like the mayor shouldn't talk that way.
And again, like the actual quote. The potty mouth, the cussing here, maybe you said the F word once, but like what John is really like turned up about is her saying dick and talking about big
women should not do that. That's for men folk.
And once again, I must stress she was not saying that Italians have small dicks. She just says, I got the biggest swinging dick in Chicago. She's speaking metaphorically here, but John is like, the potty mouth thing is bringing up male penis size at all for him.
Yeah.
Going on here, he writes, she's okay. Why is she angry? She's imprisoned Columbus statues because she's afraid of her fellow leftists who hate Columbus. You cannot. She's imprisoning a statue.
Well, they have those people, those guys at the Chicago black sites. That's fine. But when you put a fucking statue in a room, you have committed a vile human rights violation. Amazing.
Yeah. The biggest pussy in Cook County Jail, the guy who got pragged out by the Columbus statue.
She's imprisoned Columbus statues because she is afraid of her fellow leftists who hate Columbus. And to cover her own weakness, anger, and fear, she mocked Italians and lawyers with witnesses present. She's being asked about it. I'm asked about it, Onesti said. She has not denied it, by the way. She has just said it's not merited, but she has not denied it, and that's just frickin' brutal.
That's freaking brutal.
I gotta say, like, in light of everything, like everything in her world, like, who gives it? Like, she said the dick thing on email.
Yeah.
That's really, like, I thought there was going to be a subtext. I thought that there was going to be, like, you know, because it's John Kass. I thought it'd be like she's talking about her dick while, you know, the gangbangers are terrorizing white people or something. Like, you know, like, because, like, murders are up and shit. And like, it should be like an easy column for Cass. But he's literally just making it about how rude she is.
Yeah.
Which, again, written by a virulently racist man.
Well, it's just part of the general. I mean, just as the mayor has nothing to fucking no answers for anything that's happening, neither do any fucking pundits. So it's like it's a question of finding a thing to talk about, like we're doing right now.
Yeah,
I don't know what the fuck to do.
This column, I know what I'm doing all the time, and nothing's ever really surprised me. But this column, like writing this now, where it's just literally about the mayor saying "dick" and you're upset about it. Like, he's the conservative writer equivalent of the guy who goes to prison in 2004 and gets out now and goes to the club in like a FUBU sweatsuit. Like, times changed, man.
Yeah.
I like this guy Onesti, like, because they have to pretend that they're angry that she used potty mouth, and he's saying like it's freaking unbelievable. He's like the grocery store guy in Casino, and he's like, "Wow, I said freaking, I said freaking. Yeah. Well, it's not potty mouth. It's a curse." But I saw the idea that, like, the Chicago Fraternal Alliance of Italian cops and, I don't know, aldermen or whatever, they're real offended by using the F word or saying dick in a conversation or on email.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago is a city, like, is and always has been a city run by parade floats of various ethnic white backgrounds who all hate each other. It's like, am I supposed to believe this is out of the ordinary?
Yeah. I mean, I would like to get a historical record of all the comments every Chicago mayor has made about different ethnic penises.
Yeah.
I would really like to know.
She says, she does not shout, "I did not say that." She's a lawyer, and they use weasel words. Without merit is a lawyer's answer, not a straight answer. Most politicians are genetically incapable of giving straight answers. As Russia's Vladimir Putin continues his murderous invasion into Ukraine, American President Joe Biden escalates tension and gaslights Americans about the reason the price of gas in the U.S. is at the highest in history.
Isn't it awesome how it's all turning into one thing?
Yeah.
It's like you can't even be smugly superior to the libs because you have their exact same vocabulary and grievances. It's amazing.
The John Kass article takes another quite a good turn here. If you want to talk about, like, conservatives just adopting the soy for themselves, it goes on. He writes here, Italians are demanding an apology, and Onesti was disgusted by Mayor Phallus Maximus. "We've been fighting media stereotypes," he said. "We're not a community that does a whole lot of marching and complaining and protesting." Really?
Italians have never complained. That is not. I mean, there's a reason that you guys are called Jews of better food.
Remember when a literal mob boss started an Italian anti-defamation league?
Oh, yeah. No,
and then got,
right?
Yeah.
And then got murdered at the fucking anti-Italian American defamation protest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like the idea of a mob boss who's annoying. It's pretty funny.
So, Onesti, that's another topic for another time. But that was the fun. Yeah, that's a topic for another time about how Italians are. They don't do a whole lot of marching and complaining and protesting, unlike some other groups that we're going to talk about. I mean, they get the biggest parade in any city like every year. That's marching and complaining and St. Patrick's Day and Columbus Day are forms of protesting, in my opinion.
It's true.
They're way more disruptive. I goes, that's a topic for another time. But that was the final straw. Now she's made it a personal thing. By doing so, she not only infuriated leaders of our community, but others. I'm getting a call from African Americans, Native Americans, Latin Americans, Jewish Americans. She crossed the line and unified us all. She made it personal. What
about our dicks?
Yeah.
We need to know what you think of our penises and how they relate to yours. This is erasure.
I notice he's not going to call us from Irish Americans. I'll just say that, right?
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
Like, yeah, we understand. Lori's got a bigger dick than us. You know, we're not gonna fight about this. But yeah, no, he's getting calls from men all over Chicago who's like, Mayor Lightfoot, you made it this time it's personal.
Wait, he's saying he got calls from from all the people who walked in the bar from that format because like the tenor of the calls is like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. What the fuck? Are you okay? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
I don't believe that.
He called them in and held space for them.
He is lying. I mean, I don't know. This guy just sounds like he wants to be in the newspaper. I'm on Lori's side.
I love the leader of every like civic and community organization is just calling this guy to be like, we stand with you and the small dick community. No, he goes on. He writes, would Onesti ever say such things in front of his family or his nona? No, he said. When he heard what the mayor had said, he first thought of his grandparents. I was offended on behalf of my grandparents, Onesti said. That might sound a little cheesy, but it's not. There has never been a time when I felt so insulted on behalf of them.
Yeah,
they came over. My grandparents came over to America on the bang bus.
The bang boat when it arrives at Ellis Island.
Everyone's just like so ungenerous though, in how they read anything, because it's always a contest to who can win the agreement race, who deserves to be felt sorry for the most, even if it's like this guy who, his job, his like actual function of his job could probably best be described as like using pension money skim to like go on the world's worst cruises, but. Yeah, I mean, it's like everyone's so ungenerous in how they read it. Like she's saying, like I read it as like, yeah, it's even bigger than Italians. The stereotype being that, yeah, they have like big, disgusting, like nitrate-filled cocks with like fleshy pizza bubbles in them.
They got that braciole.
Yeah, I mean, it's anecdotally, we've all heard it a lot, but I don't know. I get this. It's a Jewish guy and a black guy called me and said, "This is one struggle." All right, man. It's like, are we in new era? Because this story is nothing but cap.
No more brother wars, only dick size wars.
Yeah.
But once again, I gotta say, I'm very proud of the Irish community for not getting in on this fucking pity party because they've accepted.
You gotta know your limitations.
They're not. For it. Sorry.
I mean, they realize like if you have a small dick, you just got to get good at lying. You have to be able to convince every woman you've ever been with that you just got out of the pool.
I was just skipping ahead a little bit. She calls us fucking cowards in meetings, a Chicago Police Department commander said. And you're wondering if she'd ever talk about comparing dick sizes? Get real. She says anything, anytime to anyone because she thinks she can. That's who she is.
Yeah,
You've heard
that's
people
why you run for mayor. That's the point of running for mayor, to get to yell at people. There's nothing else you're going to do with the job.
Yeah. The job of mayor is to be like, I would say that the closest thing we have to a Jesus Christ-like figure is mayors of major cities in America.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you have to die for your city's sins, which, and by die, I mean, literally the second you get in office, your approval rating goes down to 20% and everyone hates you.
Yes.
He goes on, you've heard people say that she swears like a sailor. Well, I was a sailor, an able-bodied seaman on a merchant vessel,
God.
and I never heard such talk.
I was, he's like, oh my
come
god, this
on,
is such
dude.
Italian bullshit. Just like,
No, that's not
in the
Italian, that's
middle
John
of.
Kass saying that.
Oh, that's John Kass.
Greek,
John
same
Kass
thing.
was saying
This
I was
is
an able-bodied
tricks.
seaman.
Yeah.
His name should be John Cap.
Yeah. Well, like, okay, this is such Greek bullshit. I'm sorry. John Kass is Greek. But okay, first, like, he was a merchant marine and he never heard guys talk about their dicks. He never heard crass language. Are you fucking kidding me? He's really going with this?
But there is
This
one
is an off week for him.
But there is one benefit to christening her Mayor Phallus Maximus, because Onesti thinks my Latin is superb. Your Latin is amazing, he said. I just call her Mayor Lightfoot.
Oh, that's
my
a good
God,
one.
dude, Jesus Christ. Like, it just, two guinea pigs talking to each other. two lobotomized apes just hitting a button to say hi to each other.
Just go ready. He goes, skip ahead a little bit. He goes, if Chicago isn't ready for an Italian mayor, Chicago isn't ready for a Greek mayor. I don't think the big money supporters of the white shadow like Greeks, but I don't really care. Let them enjoy what's left of their city after Mayor Phallus Maximus is really done with it. As St. Patrick's Day approaches, oh boy, here we go. Get the Irish involved here. We rely on the grace of the South Side Irish. Let's hope they intervene and support their Italian friends, because they could give the mayor a nice thick bar of Irish spring soap to hold meekly in her mouth. As penance, she could keep repeating, "It's magically delicious. It's magically delicious," past her teeth holding the soap as if it were a mouthful of tasty Lucky Charms.
Okay,
That is one of the strangest paragraphs. Just
no. That's just perverted, man. That's like
I think. By the way, if he's talking about like ethnic groups getting befriended and they're all calling him and saying like, "We stand with you, John Cash," Irish people. We are not some fucking leprechaun caricature, and we don't like Irish spring soap. Get that bullshit out of here.
I gotta say, this is the worst John Kass column I've ever read. And
really
I have memories of reading John Kass in 1998 as a little boy. I heard my mom complaining about it, and I was curious when I saw the newspaper. This is the worst one. This is terrible. This is like it only like it just no energy. None of Cass's usual flourishes of depressing life. Like looks into his life. Nothing. He's not even making like. Not even his usual like racist point that at least makes you go, oh, like what a terrible guy. It's literally all about cussing, and it's off the rail. Like this is only acceptable to write something this bad and lethargic if like your son died that afternoon. This is terrible, John.
No, this is the Lion in Winter. This is him no longer at the newspaper and on his little blog.
He's right. Yeah, this is John Cass News. No editors. I
want to do a training montage where I get the old Cass back. I want to just wake him up at 5 a.m. every day and make him watch rap videos. Like
steam coming out of his ears.
Yeah. Dangle sausage behind a network of contraptions, and then when he gets to it, it's a hologram. I want to get the old Cass back because this is awful. This is depressing, man.
He's lost his fire.
Yeah,
this should really be like anybody who thinks like fucking Substack and that shit is like, oh, this is great. We don't need newsrooms and editors. We've got just direct access to the mind dollops of our thought leaders. It's like, yeah, this is what you get. Just zero quality control at all.
I do like the phrase though. I do like the phrase "a mouthful of tasty Lucky Charms," because I imagine John Kass like he like secretes away hidden Ziploc bags of Lucky Charms so he can eat them secretly so his wife doesn't yell at him or something.
I think John Kass hides, like, I feel like every trick that prisoners have for getting razor blades and drugs into prison, that's how John Kass gets candy around the house. I feel like he's used a knife to cut like a slit into his own cheek to put Tootsie Rolls in.
He's boofing fucking a Snickers bar.
Yeah. John Kass is in husband solitary for sneaking a payday into the ballet or whatever awful outing his wife took him on.
He's playing a harmonica and he turns to the Columbus statue next to him and says, "What are you in for?"
Being white.
Well, I mean, he ends the column by saying, Mayor Phallus Maximus, the days of honoring yourself will soon be at an end. But before you go, would you mind letting Christopher Columbus out of jail?
Free my man.
So I guess he was trying to like draw a thread that like of Lightfoot like treating Italians poorly. It's like the dick thing and then Christopher Columbus, but he doesn't even. Yeah, this is just so low energy. Like, did his doctor tell him there's another food he can't eat today? Like, what the fuck is this? This is like, This is awful. He's either just started or is coming off SSRIs.
Well, yeah, that doesn't. Well, okay. If we're talking about performances of misery, the self-performance of misery and suffering, you guys are, of course, gonna love you. You will never guess where this royal remembrance comes from. That's right. It's courtesy of Chicago's own John Kass.
No.
Yes. Yes. John Kass has a column called My Mom and the Queen that I think you guys are really going to enjoy. We're going to go long today, but it's worth it. This is another Kass banger. This is, I didn't want to read any of like the Tory Graph or fucking Andrew Sullivan or any actual British person talking about the Queen. We need to hear from the angriest Greek man in Chicago about what his feelings on the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. You boys ready for this?
Yeah.
John Kass, Dateline, September 11th, 2022. When Queen Elizabeth II died the other day, there were two things I had to do. The first was to call my 92-year-old mom and see how she was taking it.
Oh, no. His mom's alive.
Like many women of her World War II generation, my mom revered the 96-year-old queen. She revered Queen Elizabeth for her dignity, her service to her people, for keeping that stiff upper lip, whether she felt like it or not, for putting duty and country first, and the Queen's stoic reserve at a time when Western culture has become increasingly consumed with cheap theatrical displays of emotion and public sentimentality. I'm not a fan of kings or royals. If you grew up in Chicago...
I'm not a fan of kings or royals, okay?
His mom is. John is just now saying, I'm not a fan of kings or royals. If you grew up in Chicago, you grew up in a city where many were eager to bend the knee and kiss the hand. Rather than support the divine rights of kings and a monarchy, I'd much rather we support a meritocracy of equal opportunity where the best and the hardest working rose to the top. Like
Is that what happened with you? Is that the story of your life, John?
You're never going to guess where he goes with this.
God.
I'd much rather we support a meritocracy of equal opportunity where the best and the hardest working rose to the top, just like the NFL or the English Premier League.
God.
So he says,
God.
it's like, you know what? I mean, I kind of agree with him. Like Tom Brady's Tom Brady because he's won the most Super Bowls. Look, Peyton and Eli Manning, sure, they're from football royalty, but they proved it on the gridiron.
Okay, yeah. I like the aside he has about how people in Chicago bend the knee and kiss the hand. I don't know what he's like alluding to. Do you think there was something in there about? Do you think that it was like that feels incomplete? Like it feels like they're supposed to be kissing someone's hand, and he was going to say like race hustlers. Some fucking insane term like that.
Well, here's where he goes with it. He goes, the competition and striving made America great, but we don't have that anymore in America. Instead, we have politics that offer equity, a racist practice where winners and losers are selected not on merit, but by immutable characteristics like skin pigments. But my mom just loved Queen Elizabeth. I know. He didn't even get to the second thing he has to do yet, so keep that in mind.
Also, like he loves talking about Chicago this, Chicago that. But like the idea, especially for an ethnic white person, to say that there was just pure, colorless meritocracy, like in Chicago, like
it was all like whichever Polish uncle you had that determined what job you got with the city.
Yeah,
it was like
Chicago.
It was familial.
Chicago, in the time of Cass's life and his fucking horrifyingly alive mother, was essentially, it was like having a monarchy system, but for who gets to be the garbage man. If you were white.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the whole Harold Washington movement was basically trying to break up that ethnic control and like actually de-affirmative actionize the system.
Yeah, he should have gone as far as Cromwell.
Indeed.
So he goes, but my mom just loved Queen Elizabeth. I know, Mom said over the phone, her voice soft. I'm watching on the TV. The Queen is dead. Long live the King. She paused for a moment, sighed deeply, and said, Zwa Sema, life to us. Long live King Charles. As a young woman, my mom left her native Canada and the civilized small town of Guelph, Ontario, to marry my father and make her new life in Chicago, in the tough back of the yards neighborhood. It was a neighborhood of many strong churches and busy taverns and drunks and fights, all of it smelling like a slaughterhouse, because the old Union Stockyards was America's slaughterhouse. Sounds like a wonderful place to make your. I mean, imagine. I mean, I don't know. I guess Ontario is pretty boring, but imagine leaving that for the neighborhood that smelled like a slaughterhouse. See,
Yeah.
he loves Chicago. It's all the Chicago colors. We don't have that in America anymore. We don't have neighborhoods that are full of taverns and churches and smell like a cow that just shat and bled itself to death in front of you.
I don't feel like he gets out much. It's like there's still,
No, doesn't he
fucking-
just hang around? Like he goes to the hardware store or something? I think that's it.
Now,
yeah,
okay,
he does like a conversational version of cruising, I guess. But he
goes to the
can't
Home
be
Depot and looks for a guy with which color apron corresponds to what kind of conversation you want to have: sports, the weather, or power tools.
Yeah, I guess rough trade is like ethnic jokes.
Yeah. Okay, keep in mind though that this column ostensibly started about like his mom liking the Queen of England. Now, just brace yourself for this tree of life style fucking memory that John Kass has sharing from his mom.
God.
He goes, as a newlywed, she once looked out their apartment window to the corner tavern where she saw a man get completely knocked out of his shoes with one punch. They must have been slip-ons, loafers, she said once. It had been raining and the shoes just stayed there as he flew backwards. I said to myself, welcome to Chicago, and life is just a bowl of cherries. Did I tell your father about the man who was punched out of his shoes? Of course not.
What?
What's the point of that story?
Fuck. Oh my god.
She saw the
that's
first
so
knockout
weird.
game.
As she settled into the unfamiliar world of her new life in Chicago, Elizabeth became Queen and my mom's touchstone. She didn't talk about the Queen with her friends. She didn't act like some royal groupie. But I was her son. I knew. And there was that National Geographic of the coronation on the coffee table she kept for years. Some Americans take inspiration from sports stars and showbiz types, but there once was an America where performers weren't considered leaders or role models any more than actors or tap dancers. Again, what century is his brain in?
This is
I remember in America where people didn't look to tap dancers for moral instruction.
Yeah, it used to be about how hard you work, not how well you dance to Charleston. What the fuck are you talking about?
These kids today
he's out of his fucking mind
with their minstrel shows and their and
I have a feeling you wouldn't complain about that.
probably
not.
They're penny dreadful magazines.
He must have been getting into the sausage again because this is like old Cass. I love the thing about why wouldn't she tell the dad about the shoes? Like,
and why wouldn't she tell her
didn't
friends
want him
that she
to
liked
worry
Queen
about
Elizabeth?
her, that the neighborhood might be rough. I don't know.
And I also like he said,
knockout game out there.
I also like that he said she wasn't some royal groupie. She just kept the commemorative National Geographic magazine in our living room for 40 years.
Does he know what the word groupie means?
Yeah.
She was getting slutted out by
exactly.
Lord Mountbatten.
You have to have sex with them, I think, to be groupies, right?
Actually, John may have been getting slutted out by Lord Mountbatten if we know his proclivities. Zing!
It's like he's like, my mom is a great old gal who left Ontario, and not once did she ever get a passport, fly to England, and to fuck a 15-year-old Prince Charles. I don't know what any of this means for any of us.
It keeps going. We have not even gotten to the most insane part of this article yet.
Oh boy!
As a girl, my mother had listened to the bombing of London on the radio. As her father, my grandfather, fought in Europe for Canada in his Second World War, having also fought in World War I.
Damn.
And the House of Windsor and Winston Churchill led Great Britain through the darkness, not by cheap and sensational emotional speeches, not by cheap theatrics, but by example. Elizabeth's stoicism meant everything to my mother. She and millions across the world took inspiration from the English monarch. And because my mom felt this way, there was the second thing I had to do. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a chance.
Oh,
Like,
no.
I'm going to give you guys a chance to see if you can guess what the second thing John Kass had to do after talking to his 92-year-old mother on the phone is when he heard the news that Queen Elizabeth had died.
Okay, Matt,
Best guess.
you go first.
Go to the hardware store.
Okay, Felix.
Okay. I'm going to say go to her house and like sand off a bunion.
No. Okay, you ready for this?
Okay.
And because my mom felt this way, there was that second thing I had to do. Rewatch and reconsider a superb 2006 film, The Queen, starring Helen Mirren as Queen Elizabeth II.
He had to do that?
You had to.
What
You had to do it, Mad Dog. You had to do it.
I could never in a million fucking years imagine that, like, okay, like he was like, yeah, my mom is a huge fan of Queen Elizabeth II. I had to talk to her. Me personally, I'm a huge fan of Stephen Frears' 2006 film, The Queen, starring Helen Mirren.
My God.
That is amazing.
Oh my God.
The Queen is the exact type of movie where it is only remembered because it got some big star their Oscar finally.
Yep.
It has no cultural resonance whatsoever.
No
He is the
resonance
first person to have thought
whatsoever.
of that movie in a decade.
Listen to this. Listen to this.
You gonna talk about the
Especially
King's
now.
speech next.
Especially now, with the Queen to be lying in state and celebrity news commentators and their political agendas working overtime. What the fuck is he talking about? He's just
Oh
like,
my
he's getting
God.
preemptively mad at celebrity news commentators and their injecting their political agenda into the royal
God,
funeral.
they're getting their politics into my royalties.
What, like,
it's a tragedy.
He can't watch anything but Newsmax, and he's just like imagining Wolf like he even like his most hated news channel, like MSNBC, wouldn't be like, "Oh, this colonial bitch is dead." Like, what
Listen to
the
this.
fuck is he talking
Listen,
about?
He's not even dead. He's not even done yet. He says, with the Queen lying in state and celebrity news commentators and their political agendas working overtime, along with revisionist worm tongues who would make history unrecognizable. So if you haven't seen it, allow me to recommend it. It's worth your time. You might think me foolish to focus on a movie. I'd never, John. I love movies, especially when there is so much news and live commentary about the royals now. But will the media peel its own skin? What? But will the media peel its own skin?
Gross.
The film deals with the modern political celebrity media culture that demanded Queen Elizabeth humble herself, wear her emotions on her sleeve for all to see, to the delight of the emotionally unhinged mob that really didn't know Diana, but hysterically wept for her. Dude, your mom doesn't know the fucking Queen, and she's crying over this old bat. What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Oh my God, I love that he is an American who hates Diana.
Yes,
You could tell he like
She
fucking
was a
hates.
trollop. She embarrassed the family.
she
She could have gotten AIDS
Gallivanting
into the
around with
palace.
that
he gave
Mohammedan.
AIDS to the Queen by touching all those people.
he
She's cavorting with a Saracen.
he's the what we found him, the one American who just not even Anglo, not a drop of Anglo blood, and he's like, that bitch Diana Spencer.
Okay, dude. Okay, you guys are not. The article's not over yet. Like
Oh boy.
it gets so much more insane. Listen to
Oh
this.
my God.
Helen Mirren won an Oscar for her performance. She's brilliant in this, a study in control, just like her subject. And it mirrors exactly what my mother and many others loved about Queen Elizabeth II. The film focuses on the difficult period following the death of former Princess Diana Spencer 25 years ago. The Queen refused to participate in the national drama about Diana. She wanted no part of it. The media didn't like her silence, and her approval ratings dropped. Elton John so wanted to perform at the funeral and all but demanded it. He recast his song about Marilyn Monroe, the Hollywood sex goddess who committed suicide after being passed around like some broken toy by the Kennedy brothers. His song
A broken toy? I'm sorry.
Why would you
it's-
pass around a broken toy? You probably put it in the
such
garbage.
He's such a like just in fundamental ways is such a terrible writer. Like
Really true.
his command of like analogies and similes is just it's like if you were showing a remedial student what not to do.
But like it's just like he has the brain of an old woman though. It's like his mother's brain has been like some sort of like Freaky Friday has put essentially his mother's sensibility about Diana thought she was too big for the she was a pop star into the body of a man who's been eating sausage and watching the Bears for the last 60 years.
Okay, this is probably why he has trouble getting out and making friends. It's like there are probably like plenty of big old Polacks who would love to talk to him about like the Bears fucking suck, blah blah blah. Oh, remember? I wish we could bring Ozzie Guillen back. And he's just over there, and he's like, "Can you believe that people are talking about Diana today?"
No, he
like what?
Yeah, no, like he'd be at the local tavern. He'd be at the local tavern trying to talk about the Bears, and then be like, "Oh, what do you think of their defensive line this year?" And then John Kass would be like, "I used to love the Bears until they made the game all about celebrity when they did that awful Super Bowl shuffle song."
Yeah, he's
the mawkish sensibilities of the unhinged mob hooting and hollering for the refrigerator Perry doing the shuffle. No, thank you. This is about meritocracy and honor.
There's probably a lost John Kass.
Take those sunglasses off, Jim McMahon. Take them off. You're inside.
It's probably like a lost John Kass column from the day that Walter Payton died, where it's like, well, looks like you finally got your comeuppance for your violent rap all those years ago. You're like, John, we can't run this.
Okay, listen to this. Okay, his song about Norma Jean was refit to cast Diana as the English Rose. Was it dignified to refit a song from Monroe as the funeral anthem for Diana? Would you want it done for your sister or mother or wife at their funeral? I mean, yeah, I would. I mean, like, if Elton John wants to do a personal tribute to my daughter, sister, wife, or mother, then I'd be fine with that. I would
barely know you and Elton John. These are some of the great talents of our time.
No, you don't get it. You don't get it. Marilyn Monroe had sex. She wasn't a virgin when she got married. So
here it goes.
Gross.
Yeah. If you ask that, I suppose then I have no further questions for you. But I wouldn't want a song at a family funeral associated with a broken sex goddess, plaything of American political royalty. But maybe that's just me.
He's so fucked up. He is he's the most
he should choke. He should choke.
Oh my, he's like he was like barely alive when she was, and he's like furious about her having sex.
Yes.
He's like just disgusted with her, and he's trying he's so like he's trying to conceal it with like, oh, she was like used by men, but like really at the heart of that is like that disgusting bitch. She was already used up by the time she got to Arthur Miller.
It's the Madonna whore thing. Like we have Queen Elizabeth and I guess Diana, and then you have Marilyn Monroe. Just like now we have Kate Middleton and Meghan Markle. We've got a Madonna and whore all over again, and we should be able to vote on which one we see naked.
Yeah. But listen to this. He goes further with it. If you talk about like the Madonna whore thing, listen to this. He goes, "It could just be me and my cultural deficiencies and weaknesses. But then we don't sing songs at our funerals, except perhaps lamentations. At Diana's funeral extravaganza, Marilyn Monroe melded with the English Rose as if they were spiritual sisters." And the thing about that is like, actually the comparison between Marilyn Monroe and Princess Diana is kind of apt. Because, like, I mean, both in like the celebrity that they were, elevated to, the things that people read into them, the sexuality, but also the way in which they were kind of like used and driven to their deaths by the people around them. Either, murder in one case, suicide, overdose in the other.
Both leave a lot of questions, I would say.
Yeah, well, alleged murder. I mean, like, your mileage may vary, but it says here, okay. Yeah. The prime minister at the time was Tony
mileage
Blair.
Did vary.
Oh yes.
R.I.P.
The prime minister at the time was Tony Blair, a slickster who had much in common with the former president Bill Clinton. It was Clinton who could emote on a dime. Americans wanted that sort of thing then, and then the world came to want it too. Everything became about your feelings. I love that. I love that he's like a fuck your feelings guy because he's the most maudlin cocksucker on the planet. There's nobody whose feelings are elevated to like a more fucking a hysterical high pitch than this fucking sausage snarfing fucking twat. When Blair christened Diana post-mortem as the people's princess, public sentiment in the UK turned against the Queen, who had refused to dance and emote. He's doing the floss dance. He's doing the Dougie.
I was too disgusted by his his everything that I missed that he said Bill Clinton could emote on a dime. Another just
Drop an emote.
brilliant.
Drop an emote right on a dime. Boom.
What would that mean, John? The phrase is turn on a dime.
He would do a press conference, and then he would just have them like at an improv show. He'd just yell out emotions, and then he would just do them right then and there.
But it's like, then you would say, if you're like, he's already using a cliche, but then you would say like at the drop of a hat, you know?
Yeah.
But he says that like you turn on it, it's hard to turn on a dime because of the radius, you fucking Hellenic idiot.
He doesn't write good. He is a product of that mid-century affirmative action. Just like, hey, are you an ethnic white guy who is like in some vague way related to World War II? Well, here you go.
Did he go to a yeshiva?
Here's a job writing. Where your job is going to be to complain every day about how everybody around you is complaining all the time.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to breeze through the end here. It says, it was that refusal to give into emotion that kept England strong through the bombings and kept their spirit up. Would satisfying our inner snowflakes lead a nation and keep it strong? And when she finally capitulates to save the monarchy, the Tony Blair character congratulates her for demonstrating proper humility. You're confusing humility with humiliation, she says. Boom. There will be hours and hours and hours. Yeah, boom. That's just one line, one word.
He wrote boom?
Mic drop. He wrote boom. Like mic drop. He wrote boom.
That's hilarious.
There will be hours and hours and hours of news coverage about the Queen's funeral. There will be much gossip and intrigue. The worm tongues will be in all their glory. Before she died, she approved of each step of the funeral rites, from the processions to the songs that will be played, and who stands where. It's all political theater approved by an extremely strong woman who didn't want to shed public tears, but who knew the power of ceremonial and ritual. Wouldn't it shouldn't it be the power of ceremony and ritual? Forget fucking. Who cares? The choreographers pull it at a nation's heartstrings. Last line of this article: do yourself a favor and watch The Queen. Just incredible. Incredible. Like, just, I'm so glad he doesn't have an editor anymore. That was a virtuoso performance by an opinion columnist.
Oh, man.
He really is the best, you know?
He's
like,
he's unbelievable.
How do you end that on watch the Queen? Like,
what's this fucking movie?
That was like one of those Larry King tweets.
Yeah.
Do yourself
my
a favor
2 cents
and watch The Queen.
He, at no point does he, like, explain why the movie's good.
Yeah, he doesn't even say. He just says like, yeah, she's in it and she has to do stuff. He doesn't say anything about what makes it a good film.
Do you think that there was like they tried to do like movie night at John Kass's house with like his loose acquaintances from the bar, and they're like, oh, let's put on The Expendables, and he's just putting on bullshit like this, like weeping at the majesty of the Queen,
and everybody
like,
just sort of awkwardly slips away one at a time.
Yeah, then he
Irish
just starts
buys him while he's just wrapped watching the show.
Yeah, he's drinking like an ouzo cocktail, and he's like, "Did you know she showed students how to use a diaphragm for cunnilingus?" He's just still complaining about Diana.
Would you guys mind dipping into the Cass hole real quick? Because he had a pre-election column that I like. I mean, it goes on fucking forever, but I just want to read the beginning here. So this is John Kass writing on November 6th, 2022. Headline: Red wave coming. The time of jesters honoring themselves comes to an end.
What are you talking about?
What a way with words. Okay,
shit?
Felix.
Is
You're
that
going to
all along the Watchtower?
He has such a way with words. So, red wave coming. The time of jesters honoring themselves comes to an end by John Kass.
Oh my God.
It begins. I must admit that I've always been susceptible to the dark charms of jesters.
I don't know what to say. I
I mean, same. I can say that.
I must admit,
dark charms.
I must admit that I've always been susceptible to the dark charms of jesters.
Jesters are just funny little guys. They juggle.
Particularly, he goes on to write, those evil jesters who use cunning and wits to rid themselves of their enemies in politics and at court.
But that's not a guy.
He's thinking of the Joker. He's thinking of the Joker.
He's talking about the Joker. That's correct.
Yeah.
You got okay.
So he goes,
Joker's not a jester. I'm sorry.
You guys don't remember Roderick Vasily from Obama's first term?
He was czar of capering, I believe.
He goes, not circus clowns boiling out of a tiny body humor clown car making with the fart jokes. I have to read that sentence again.
What? This is also
not
Bob Dylan. I think this is Subterranean Homesick Blues.
I'm on the pavement worrying about the circus clowns boiling out of a fake car making with the fart sounds. Not circus clowns boiling out of a tiny body humor clown car making with the fart jokes.
Body humor.
Jesters. Body humor.
Right. Is this
body humor?
I thought he was talking about the humors, like black bile and shit.
This week's guest columnist is Dutch Schultz dying.
So he goes, America is awash in jesters now. You see them everywhere. In media and politics, many are sad, many panic in silence. They are all Democrats. And that red wave is coming for them. The iconic American hero was once the cowboy, but cultural high priests had to kill him off when they decided we were too advanced of a culture to stoop to the vulgar and brutal practice of fighting fight to keep our lands. I think he's
fighting fight
to keep our lands. Naturally, without the cowboy, we killed off concern for our borders.
Absolutely.
And I guess this was just fired off. I don't think he proofread this at all. He goes, and now with death of our fighting spirit and no urgency about the southern border, it's only a matter of time until the land is gone too. We sit passively as the knife is pressed against our throat. With the cowboy abandoned to bleach his bones at the ruins of the Alamo, we've developed a new American hero, the pinched-faced federal bureaucrat fighting terrorists. Whether the bureaucrat hero is Jack Ryan or the CIA or Jack Bauer of 24 or other iterations, rest assured that the Patriot Act may be used against innocent American citizens. When we all held common belief in the Constitution, that would have been shameful. But now, thanks to the left that has been steadily undermining the Constitution, I guess it all depends on politics of the moment. This is just stream of consciousness. I'm not misreading this. I'm reading it exactly as it was written.
Okay, I don't want to, I feel like it's an insult to both Kass, ourselves, and the listeners to go, you supported Bush, you did a Patriot Act, blah, 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 right? Like, that's, maybe true, not important. What is important is he saying that the Immigration Act of the 60s only passed because John Wayne did The Conqueror?
Yeah.
Perhaps.
He starts talking about Stalin and Walter Duranty for a while. He goes, yes, mistakes have been made. Yesterday's bomb vest wearing terrorist on TV screaming Allahu Akbar may have morphed into middle-class suburban American parents at your local school board meeting, opposed to gender dysphoria and CRT propaganda. They may not know that their names may be part of an FBI file, but Joe Biden's Justice Department knows who they are. And now the jesters take the stage, spinning their magical tales of a dystopian future if Democrats don't win on Tuesday. And Democrats are in absolute hysterics, with President Biden shrieking threats that Americans who don't vote to keep Democrats in power are destroying democracy in America. The president is something of a jester himself, but in reality, the president is a meat puppet without wits. And you can see the jesters on full display on MSNBC, CNN, and elsewhere in the left-wing, oh-so-corporate legacy media. They scamper and roll about the floor in a rage. Was it the dwarf Piccolini who first got to me and caused me to appreciate jesters? He was the malevolent dwarf in Par Lagerkowitz's novel, The Dwarf, that was set during the Italian Renaissance. Piccolini was servant to the prince, Machiavelli, and he was familiar with the scholar, Leonardo da Vinci. I don't know what...
Okay, now he's doing Donovan. This is Atlantis, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
He goes, leftist American jesters have been on display for the past several weeks. And with Tuesday approaching, they shake their head rattles, known as a marat, and hiss through their filed teeth, warning of dire consequences and much terror if Americans vote the wrong way and don't keep Democrats in power. The great Polish jester Stanzik was no MSNBC clown.
Did he
is
need to be a gesture?
No, he's referring to a painting. He is depicted in the masterpiece in red by Polish master Jan Matejko that is finally in its rightful place in the Polish Museum in Warsaw. It is one of my favorite paintings. If it were in Chicago at the Art Institute, I'd happily spend days sitting in front of it. The formal title isn't Sad Clown or The Sad Clown Paradox, but Stanzik during a ball at the court of Queen Bona in the face of the loss of Smolensk, 1862. His back is to the party just outside the room. He is depressed. He has dropped his Marat on the floor. The red jester, heroic and sad, is worried that the royalty of Poland didn't take the world seriously enough. It has all been too much for the unhinged leftist jester historian Michael Beschloss of MSNBC. He warned the other day that the descendants of leftist jester historians like himself may be dragged out of their homes and shot by some authoritarian government of the future if the pro-authoritarian Democrats don't retain control.
Okay, someone laced his kielbasa. Someone got him wet.
Once again, it's like these leftists, they're trying to fearmonger people. They're trying to get people scared. Aren't they a bunch of psycho freaks who need to be defeated? And it's like, okay, dude, remind me again, what is your demographic? What's that 80-year-old retired man who lives with a wife he hates and is miserable? Okay, once again, not normal.
Well, this
not
is
normal, John. I'm sorry.
This is probably the greatest example we could have pulled for failure to be normal, right?
Yep.
Because this is not even. Let's not even get into, like, you know, if you go to a school board meeting and you're upset, you're going to go to Gitmo. Let's not even get into those specifics. The way this is written, if you talked like this to anyone, if you sent an email like this to anyone, you would be committed. This is an insane way to talk.
Leave aside, Felix, right. Let's leave aside the fact that, like, he supported the war on terrorism and all of the warrantless surveillance that he now is worried is going to be. Joe Biden's Justice Department is going to round up parents at school board meetings, which, by the way, he should do. But I just want to focus in on the part that he said he would be more than happy to spend every day staring at a painting of a clown in the Polish Museum. I want to stare at a painting of a sad.
I just want to look at a sad clown. Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, you know who had a lot of clown paintings in her bedroom? My aged grandmother, who sat in her room and watched CNN all day.
This would be
a normal way to live.
This would be a real, like, you know, there you go again moment, right? If DeSantis, if he got up there in 2024, he's debating Brandon, and he says, "You remind me a lot of Pajuko, the sad Polish clown." People would be talking about that forever.
Hard hats out down at the job site, like, yo, these freaking leftist jesters. I can't get in. I've got it up to here with the jesters, with the capering and clowning.
He writes, to neo-Marxists and Jacobins playing journalist jester.
Freaking neo-Marxists and Jacobins over here.
They're playing journalist jester. There's historian jester. There's journalist jester. There's newscaster jester. There is a hot dog man jester. It's just anyone Kass encounters of a day that he feels, put off by.
I like that he called Beschloss as leftist firebrand. The guy's entire corpus goes down to presidents sure are cool.
Power.
The presidents are cool. Those are some cool guys who become president, aren't they?
Yeah. He says, to the Jacobins playing journalist jester, the end of days come when they lose power. Once they do, and a conservative Republican Congress begins pulling at at threads to determine how corporate legacy media colluded with the Democrat Party, big tech, and the American security state to silence critics and mold the American information landscape, there will be much howling and counterwalling in the jester precincts. When a red wave bearing down on them, and the jester is in biblical panic like those who suffered Noah's flood. Is it okay for me to dream just a little bit? This is like, he's like, the jesters are drowning now. Do you see?
This is Rorschach's journal.
Yep.
I think maybe this is why Trafalgar got the results it did. John Kass was a consultant for them, and he's like, all right, how many jesters do you have in your sample group?
We got to get the jesters out of there. We got to filter for jesters.
I'm just.
I love in the middle of this thing where it's like the DSH is going to come to your house and arrest you if you go to a parent-teacher conference, Jen says, these Democrats who are so afraid that the Republicans are going to kill them. It's like, you think the Democrats are going to kill you? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You have the exact same concerns.
Literally paints the straw, like builds a straw man, acts like it.
Yeah.
While talking exactly like Francis Dollaride.
By the way, I just did a word search of this page of just the word jester appears in this column 30 times.
Come in with the jesters. Come in with the jesters.
I would say that's about 29 times too many if you want to sound kind of normal.
This is reminding me of Travis Bickle. Someday a real rain's going to come and wash the jesters off the streets.
It's the way of the jester. Way of the jester.
Way of the jester.
Way of the jester.
Way of the
I just
jester.
want to read the end again. It goes, the American people have seen enough. They're tired of being pushed around by jesters.
I think the Frank Luntz front focus group, that was their top concern.
Because
jesters. It's jesters, then crime, inflation.
They're tired of being
jesters
pushed around
again.
by jesters.
Oh, then evil jesters.
Who shriek for their heads and their job. They're fed up. That red wave gathers force, and the time of the jesters honoring themselves will soon be at an end.
I have never been more excited to read a follop.
Yeah.
I cannot wait.
man.
Wait, hold on a second. I'm just gonna go to John Kass News.
The jesters are in control.
Yeah. Red alert.
We're in the court of the Crimson Jester. The jester's taken over. He's in charge now.
Okay, holy shit. All right, this is his column from November 10th. Headline, after Little Red Ripple, President Biden's beer muscles want a second term and Chicago's main event begins.
Beer muscles?
He goes, it might not be the most impressive of photographs, but just think what a Raphael or some other Italian Renaissance master could do with it. There's President Joe Biden in 2015, then our Vice President Biden, a.k.a. the big guy, Mr. 10%, standing with the Secretary of State, John Kerry. They raise their glasses to toast Chinese Communist President for life, Xi Jinping. They are so sure, so confident. Those perfect, self-satisfied, courtly masters of the universe smiles. And who is that hard-eyed blonde in the corner? Whether her name is Jill Biden or Edith Wilson, Raphael would capture her there in that bottom left corner of visual power and fix her staring off into the middle distance to look for traces of angels. He has...
Did his family lock him in his family locked him in a fucking art museum to get him to detox from sausage.
He's got Stendhal syndrome.
He thinks he's in a painting. He goes, so what happened with that little red ripple? It was a big red wave in Florida with Governor Ron DeSantis and Senator Marco Rubio, but a GOP disappointment in other states. And now control of the Senate rests with Georgia. The Republicans will need a team effort, and even with Biden's personal ratings in the toilet, Republican leadership is at each other's throats. So it's just, he just acknowledges the red ripple. Then he just starts talking about how Chicago is plagued by violent crime and jester criminals. Let's not forget them.
Right. Yeah. No, of course.
And then he talks for like another 10,000 words about Lori Lightfoot. But yeah, that's his follow up to the jester.
Wow. Not a single mention of a jester. You went from, that's the biggest drop in mentions of a jester from one column to another, I think, in human history.
But he still was talking about Renaissance painting.
And, you could have talked about jesters there. You got a Renaissance painting going. You could throw a jester in there, just one time, just as a Easter egg for the real fans who remember your jester era.
It's more insane to mention them 30 times and then not mention them once in the follow up than to keep mentioning them. That's more
jesters?
fucked up.
Jesters, what's that? What's that mean?
What do you mean I had a jester phase? No, I
That doesn't
didn't.
sound like me.
I didn't have a jester phase. What are you talking about?
So, I think we should go forward with this jester thing. When the Democrats win, we have to reassure people that the jesters are in control.
Jesters are in control.
Patriots used to be in control, but the jesters are now in control.
Yep.
The jesters are in control of the court.
By that thing with bells on it.
Yeah, the Marat.
There.
Oh my God. The jester could be the fucking liberal frog. That could be their groiper. You could post like a little
Michigan
jester.
J-Frog? Which
Michigan
frog is the liberal
J-Frog?
frog? Who's the liberal frog? Have
we
decided
never
on a liberal frog.
We never decided on
Crazy
one.
frog? Should Crazy Frog be the liberal frog?
Crazy frog might be good.
How about the Budweiser frogs? Bring them back, but they're like, we're jesters now. We're
Okay, yeah.